Hi, I'm Ani.
And I'm Zeev.
And welcome to Wood-Fired Herping. Today, we welcome another guest to our podcast. This friend of ours has been on a whole array of adventures with us all over Southern California. We're going to talk to him about some of those adventures, some adventures of his own, and his work with his field guide app and YouTube channel. It's going to be a good time, so let's get into it.
Welcome back to another episode. Summer's really setting in here in Southern California, and herping is slowing down, which means we're spending time looking back at the year so far. We've had some real fun herping trips this year. We've talked about a little in previous episodes. Herping trips in SoCal usually are one of two types: shorter trips like road cruising or flipping boards at your own board line, stuff like that, or longer, all-day, all-out trips. We've had plenty of both, but our favorites are definitely the longer, intensive ones. Many of those we were graced with the presence of our buddy Greg with us. I met Greg on Facebook in the spring of 2021 when I was out there just kind of looking for more people to hit the field with. We had just gotten through the pandemic, and we weren't through it, we were still in it, but I was getting back in the field and just kind of wanted field herping buddies. And so we met on Facebook, and our first trip together was actually just with my wife and I. Ani wasn't with us. We met Greg in Riverside County for a day of finding some pretty cool snakes. You can actually see a record of that day on his YouTube channel, but more on that later. We followed it up that year with trips to the southwestern Sierra Nevadas, the Mojave Desert, the Los Padres Mountains, and many others. This year, we've had some really great field days, including some that I've mentioned on the podcast before. What was the first outing that we took this year, Greg?
Well, first, before I say that, I want to just say I'm really happy to be here. I'm really excited to...
Well, thank you. It's our first guest because we're happy to be here, though. We didn't have to drag on the show, so that's nice.
I think our first outing with just you and me, Zeev, we just did like a small local trip.
That's right.
For like lizards and stuff. But our good like long day trip, the three of us, plus your wife, was up in the Greenhorn Mountains.
Yeah.
And that was a very fun trip.
That was a great trip.
It was. Because, we were finding things constantly all throughout.
Yeah, it was mid-spring, I want to say, end of March, early April, something like that. And we'd done the same trip, more or less, the previous year. And last year, as we've talked about a bunch on the podcast, was so dry in Southern California. And it was just droughty and hot. Droughty, is that a word? It is now. And hot. And we didn't see much. We saw lizards, and that's all we saw all day. Right. This year was like the complete opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this year, I think like the second rock I flipped over, we had a skink, and the first rock you flipped, I think you had a ringneck snake.
Right away, just right out of the car.
That was when we went back, right? That was the Greenhorns, or was this?
The Greenhorns,
yeah. That was the first, this year when we went back.
Right, this year.
Yeah. First rock I flipped right out of the car. We parked on the side of the road. There's a hike to the spot that we go to, and before we could even start on the hike, right by the side of the road, we flipped 3-4 rocks, and both of us had a herp in hand. Like, it was just a crazy day.
Yeah. And I think I know I got at least one lifer that day. The Greenhorn Mountains.
Yeah, it was a lifer for me too. Yeah.
Anna, did you have any lifers that day?
Everything we got was a lifer that day for me. That particular trip that we went to, that was the very first time I flipped anything. Everything I'd seen up until this point was...
You mean you found something by flipping? You flipped plenty before that. You just never found anything when you were flipping.
Yeah. Anything actually being seen was either in the road or he had flipped it.
Yeah. Well, I remember you had flipped the that young striped racer.
Yeah. And I yelled for him. I couldn't. The word snake couldn't come to mind. I was like, just get over here. But that was the first time I'd actually flipped over something, and there was a snake underneath it, and my brain exploded. I didn't know how to English.
It was a cool day. For me, I think the only lifer was that slender salamander, the Greenhorn Mountain slender, and we found a couple, 3 or 4, And one of them, looking back at the pictures, I think might be a second species of salamander that's up there. Batrachiops gregarius, I forget the common name. But they're found in the same spots, except the only real way to tell them apart without really looking at them close, under a microscope, is one are found in seepages and in water, basically. They're semi-aquatic, and one's found further up on the side under rocks and away from that. And I know we flipped a couple right in the creek, and then there was that one we flipped under a huge log or something that was kind of up on the hillside, and that one might be a different species. But either way, both would be lifers, even if there was only one that was a lifer. And we just kept going. We were planning to, start heading back late afternoon, but we just kept finding thing after thing after, snake after snake, lizard after lizard, salamanders. I mean, just under everything we looked, there was life, which was really neat to go back to the same place that last year we'd been to and was kind of dead. I mean, we saw a lot of lizards last time, but not a lot of diversity. We saw alligator lizards, Gilbert skinks, and some fence lizards last time, and that was that.
Yeah, I think that was like...
and we saw lots of those, but just those three species. And then this time we found, 5 species of snake? 4 species of snake? Ringnecks, striped racers, Pacific gopher snakes, and northern Pacific rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
And then, just a bunch of lizards of different kinds, and the salamanders, which were cool.
I think I missed the salamanders, because I think at one point I went up to the car to get water and snacks, and then at one point I just fell asleep, and we had no cell reception. I couldn't hear you guys, and I was like, I'm not about to go wander into the wilderness.
Yeah, flipping that racer really tired you out.
Tell me about it.
I remember this was the first trip where I saw Zeev try to tell the sex of a snake.
By popping it,
popping the
averting
the private
it,
parts out and being like, oh, this is...
Yeah, it's a skill that, I've always been kind of iffy on. It's kind of, if you know exactly how to do it, and it actually turns out it's pretty easy, but when you've just seen other people do it and you try, it's kind of just poking around in the dark, or poking around in the snake, as it may be. And, so this year I've been working with snakes a little more, and just kind of working on that skill, and finally I'm able to, it's not 100% accurate, but, I'd say 80% accuracy tell the sex of the snake that way. So otherwise it's just guessing, looking at the base of the tail, or I don't think we have any snake species here in California that are sexually dimorphic.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm trying to remember. I know in western diamondback rattlesnakes, which are only in the southeast corner of the state, you can tell the difference in by the tail banding, by the number of bands on the tail and the width of those bands. But I don't know if that's the same for red diamond rattlesnakes. It could be. They're very, very similar to atrox, to western diamondbacks. But other than that, sexual dimorphism is when the male and female of the species look different. Have a way you can tell just by looking at them if they're different. For example, with a lot of lizards, the males are really colorful, they're bigger. The females, in spiders, often the females are much bigger and more colorful. There are species of snakes that are sexually dimorphic. In other parts of the world, there's a pit viper species in Southeast Asia that the females are, 2 or 3 times bigger than the male and colored completely differently.
Oh, wow.
Looking at them, you would think they're 2 completely different species of snakes. And it's something that's pretty common with lizards. As far as reptiles go, you see it in lizards a lot, and you don't see it as much in snakes, even though there are a few species of snakes out there like that. With rosy boas, for example, you can tell the male has spurs and the female doesn't on the bottom. So that's one species you can tell externally, but not a lot of snakes are sexually dimorphic.
Yeah, I was just trying to think through the different animals we have out there and which ones have visually sort of dimorphic characteristics, and the only one I can really think of is the fence lizard.
Fence lizards.
Do they have which one was it? Oh no, I think it's geckos. Geckos have the small spikes at the back
so a lot
ends,
of the desert lizards have sexual dimorphism. So with the banded geckos, the males have little spurs at the base of their tail.
Base of the tail.
With collared lizards, the coloration's different. The head of the shape's different. With the leopard lizards, especially when they're in breeding season, the females. It is usually a seasonal thing, especially with some of those lizards, like Gilbert skinks. Like when we were flipping all those, the males had those bright orange tails and heads, and the females didn't. But that's something that's very seasonal, whereas some species, you can tell kind of year-round. With udas or side-blotched lizards, same thing. The males are more colorful, more strikingly patterned.
So there are some whose colors essentially dilute and go down when it's not mating season?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so those skinks that we were finding with those bright orange tails most of the year, or the bright blue is when they're young. Those are but when they're adults and they're in breeding season, the males get these bright red orange tails
I get you.
and heads. And then by the end of breeding season, it kind of starts to die off. And by the time they're going down for brumation, they come up in early spring. They don't have any of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's not like in bird watching. I think the majority of the birds are sexually dimorphic. It may not be the majority, but it kind of feels that way.
It's prevalent enough to where you're expecting it.
Yeah. I guess, thinking about like the feeders that I have at home, the house finches, the goldfinches, those are very easy to tell the sexes of. The mourning doves, I wouldn't have no idea.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, mourning doves are they're the gray ones, right? They almost look like pigeons, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like more delicate looking pigeons.
Yeah, those
with
ones
the little circles.
Yeah, they hang out around my backyard all day long.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they all look the same, from what I can tell.
Yeah, I forget. I don't forget, but I try not to remember until I have to that Greg was a birder before he was a herper. We don't, herpers and birders, we don't get along. Even though I too was a birder before I was a herper. But now that I've crossed over to the dark side, there's no going back.
I'm a herper wanting to be a birder.
No, you don't.
I want to, because sometimes you go out and you don't find anything, but I feel like you'll always find a bird.
Birders will spend all day hiking through the absolute hardest, worst terrain to see something like 3 inches long and brown that flies away, and they've seen it once, and that's it. Cool. They put it on their list, and they've spent all day just to see it fly from branch to branch. That's that.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if you've
it's
haven't
fun to
seen
see
anything
all.
else,
It's fun to see all the exciting species, but that's not. You can't just be a birder and only look for the exciting species.
But look, I mean, I can go to a park and see like 20 species without even like moving my feet. I mean, like with herping, like, could you imagine even seeing 5 species without moving? Like, it is so difficult.
But it's
where you
almost
just
like
sit on a park bench and it's just snake after snake crawling over your feet. That'd be something, wouldn't it?
It's almost like cheating. You just go and sit, and the animals come to you.
That's the best.
It's
sure lazy, I guess. Going back to that first real intensive all-day trip that we took, we've taken several since then, both with all of us and just me and Greg as well. What's been your favorite of the trips that we've taken so far this year?
So it would definitely be the trip that we had to Riverside County. That
was a fantastic day.
Yeah, we had double-digit snakes, and I think
except for a couple, they were all different species too.
Right. And I think I had 5 lifers that day.
Yeah, we met up with Danny, who was on the show in the Rosie Bell episode, and we hit a bunch of different habitats, a bunch of different places, and pretty much just from the start we just started seeing stuff right away, and we didn't stop seeing stuff again until we left for home. It was one of those kind of days again, and it's really fun when we go out. There's days where we go out and we see big numbers, like when we went to the Santa Monica Mountains the day before which was also a great trip. And we see huge number of snakes there, but they were mostly the same species. We saw striped racers, we saw gopher snakes, and we saw 2-striped garter snakes, and Southern Pacific rattlesnakes. But the big numbers that we saw garter snakes. We saw, I think, 22 or 23. I have 23 records of garter snakes from that day. That's fun. That's exciting to see a lot of snakes.
But it gets
after the 16th garter snake, you get a little bored, Yeah,
you're not stopping for it anymore at that point.
Yeah. Whereas in Riverside, the next day, every snake until the end of the day, when we started seeing doubles, every snake we found was a new species. Each time we found one was a new species.
Yeah, and I mean also I know we a lot of us love snakes a lot, but I really thought that we had a great variety of other species as well.
We did, yeah.
We had horned lizards, we had whiptails that were both lifers for me. It was great, and really just a nice variety throughout the day.
Yeah, we got those beautiful granite spinies in breeding colors. That male that was just incredible, and those Blainville's and those Blainville's horned lizards, like you were saying, was really cool.
This is when you all went to Riverside, right?
Yes, Riverside with Danny. I don't remember why you couldn't make it that day.
I was working, I think,
or
something like that. I was working,
you had a family thing or something,
and I wasn't able to make it. But I enviously.
I was sending you updates throughout the day. I was sending
Instagram.
you updates throughout the day. And, we saw the Blainville's horned lizards, or coastal horned lizards, which are super cool. They're an SSE species, and they're getting harder and harder to find every year here in California.
we saw the granite night lizards, which I think was another lifer for you.
Yes, it was.
They're not an SSC species, but they are protected in California because of their habitat. And they live under granite flakes. And when you go herping in Riverside County, it's kind of hard to explain if you've never experienced it. But these granite boulders have these huge sheets, or small fragments of this paper-thin granite that's kind of peeling off of it. And eventually it falls and creates rocks among these boulders to flip. But while it's hanging on the rock, granite night lizards almost exclusively live under these sheets of
these
granite.
Flat rocks.
And oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes to look under them, you have to break them off. So people use hammers or crowbars, whatever, to pull them off to find these lizards. And so to protect the habitat, they've protected the granite night lizards. We were lucky to find them under just rocks on top of other rocks. The other way to find them is under cap rocks, just rocks sitting on top of other rocks. And so we were lucky to find them under that and not need to go digging through granite. But those are super cool. And the whiptails, you say, I think we saw 2 species of whiptails that day, right? Did we see the orange throat and the California whiptail?
That is correct. We had both.
Yeah, like you said, just a great diversity.
Yeah, the orange throat was a lifer for me, and it took us a bit of work to see it, but because the western whiptail or the subspecies that is California whiptail, like those are all over the place. We see them all the time, but the orange throated is in a much sort of smaller slice of range right there, and so it was nice to see that for the first time.
Yeah.
And we had been to that spot together before.
Yeah, that was actually the first place we met. We went back to the same place.
Yes. But we didn't find any the whiptails that time.
No. What did we find the first time in that spot? We found Ruber, the red diamond rattlesnakes, and the granite night lizard. The granite spiny lizards.
Right.
And yeah, that was a cool one. What about you? What about, when I say you, I mean Ani? What was one of your favorite trips we took?
Honestly, I think it had to be the second time that we all went to the mountains.
Yeah, it was.
That was just it was such a fruitful day, and I think that was one of the first official outings I'd done this year, where it was we were actually coming up with some stuff, and I don't know, it was like I was letting my wings spread again for the first time since the last season ended into this one. So it was really fun to, now that we'd all kind of gotten to know each other and we'd know the area too, we'd gotten to know the space that we were in, that we just all felt comfortable. And then when we went in just supercharged. And
I think that's a good point to say, where we all know each other better. I think the first time we went was the first time you guys met each other.
Yeah, the very first time we went to the mountains was the first time we met. Yeah. And then this time around, it's just, I don't know, it just felt good. And you're the full company, you're going out. And there was just so much that we were seeing this time around. Sometimes for me, when I go into newer locations, I get a little anxious because I don't know the area. If I get anxious, like if I lose Zeev, he's kind of like my beacon back to civilization, because the man he's a GPS. Like, he's an absolute GPS. And so
yeah, I can't get lost. I've tried. I physically, it's not.
But
I'm not going to say it's not possible for me to get lost, because of course it's possible for me to get lost, but it's never happened.
Yeah, and then this time around, like I knew where we were. I felt that comfort, and so when we were going at it, and this time I was prepared with like gloves and all kinds of stuff. So going into it, I don't know, it just felt like I felt good. I felt back at home, back in the shoes. So that had to be my favorite one for sure. What about yours?
Wow.
We're going to turn that question back on you, sir.
I know. It's hard to pick. I'd say it'd be one of 3, and I don't think I can narrow it down beyond 3. It'd be the mountains, like you said, Riverside County, like you said, or the day before in the Santa Monica Mountains.
The Santa Monica is something I want to explore.
The Santa Monicas are really quite an epic day. We got there not super early. I think it was like midday already. And we went there with the intention of seeing garter snakes. And so I figured that kind of time of day would matter a little less than looking for other snakes, because we're going to the pond, they're in the reeds no matter the time of day. But right out of the parking lot I think you were still kind of setting up your stuff before we got the first snake right away.
Yeah.
And the rest of the day, there was this trail to this pond, back to the parking lot. We get out to the pond, we see our garter snakes, we get our fill of that. And the rest of the day was just spent walking back to the parking lot, finding snakes along the way, going, okay, we found a snake, let's do one more hike. Hiking back, finding another snake, turning around, hiking back, finding another one. I mean, we're just turning stuff up every which way.
one of the things that I really like about that particular spot is that everything feels very close, right? We're not hiking for hours to get to a spot that's like perfect. It's like 10 minutes from the parking lot.
And even, graded dirt path. Like you're not hiking up the side of a mountain.
Oh, yeah. It's a well-maintained area. The scenery is gorgeous. There's often a lot of people there as well. But for whatever reason, like having a lot of people doesn't really seem to bother the snakes.
Yeah.
And we were able to find, so many snakes just like on every little sort of offshoot that we went looking.
Yeah. I was back there, actually went back there with my mother for her birthday. She wanted to do a little picnic in the Santa Monica Mountains for her birthday. And I figured those rocks where you have this view, there's an area there with a great view that we went back to. And again, we were lucky to not have too many people there that day. And again, it was just a bunch of snakes. Actually, this time we went, it was right when the California toads were turning from tadpoles to toadlets.
Yeah.
And the ground was absolutely carpeted with toadlets. I mean, so just insane. When we went there, we saw those crazy amount of tadpoles.
Yeah,
I couldn't find any tree frogs when I went back. But I found, I have videos and pictures of this, and which I'll post. It's just literally a writhing carpet of toadlets. Yeah. We were walking so carefully not to step on any. It was taking 3 minutes to go 10 feet because we were just like waiting for all these toads to move out of the way. And so that was pretty cool. We didn't see any snakes, but
don't tell anyone, but I
other than our listeners.
We promise our listeners can keep a secret. It's fine.
When I did the filming, together with you, for all those tadpoles, I had thought that they were California tree frogs because I knew that those guys were out there, and I just kind of made the assumption and didn't really think about it. And later, when I was studying a little bit more, I was like, you know what? Those are probably toads.
That makes a lot of sense because I saw a lot of toads there.
Yeah, and so I didn't go back and correct the video, which is like, it happens. It's okay. Yeah. But that's definitely.
You'll let the commenters tell you you're incorrect.
That's why I said don't tell anyone to. Otherwise, they're gonna give me a lot of trouble on my channel.
So when it comes to herping, how did you get involved in it? How did it come about in your life? When did you really start feeling and jumping into it?
Yeah, well, I've been into wildlife since I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. I used to, go on family trips and bring these like field guides with me to identify everything I wanted to see. I have this like memory from traveling with my mother. We were in the Grand Tetons National Park, and I really wanted to see a marmot. And honestly, in California, they're kind of easy to see if you're in the right place. But as a kid,
that's what we saw in
Washington, in the Olympic National Park. We were tripping over them.
Yeah. So we did this, this very. We woke up at 4 a.m. to go to this hike to find a marmot. The last day that we were there, and that's. And we saw moose and we saw the marmot, and it was a great hike. But so I've always been into nature, and then after college I got into bird watching. Mm-hmm. My mother had gotten into it a couple years before. She taught me how competitive it could be.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm hooked. I need to, she always tells this story. It's like, I got into it and she's like, how many birds do you want to see? And I was thinking, and then she answers for me. She's like, you want to see one more than me, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah. So I've been into bird watching for a long time, and I've gotten used to using the mobile field apps. Sibley's is a big one. iBird. Is it iBird? What is it called? iBird Pro is another big app. And, I would make these trips, and I would see all these salamanders and snakes while I was out, and I didn't always know what it was, and I'd have to go look it up. And I was always traveling with these big books, and it's like, I try not to check luggage when I travel, and I was like, I need an app. And one didn't exist, so that's why I decided to make one. And I know this is like a really long-winded question for why I got into herping.
Perfect.
Hey, it's good.
Our origin stories are our origin stories. But yeah, you can't change it. Yeah,
this is how it happened. It's like, so I started building this app. I was thinking about leaving my job, and so I had a little bit of extra time, and so I'm building this app. And then I was like, okay, I need to make sure that this works. Like, if I'm out in the field, like, is it actually going to help me identify it? Can I trust what I built more than
like a science book or
a
map or something?
And that's really when things sort of kicked off, and I started to go out like every weekend trying to find things and looking at stuff and like figuring what it was, and like, okay, is my app actually doing a good job at helping me identify what I see? And now I had been on trips where I'd seen a lot of herps before. Snake Road is a very famous place in Illinois where there's a lot of snakes. They cross this roadway into bluffs where they go hibernate. And so I had been there once before because I thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
But this is when like sort of the hobby really took off, is actually with building the app and making sure that everything worked and like learning all the sort of in-depth details. And every time it was out, like, okay, what else can I learn about this thing? Like,
it was the rush
addictive.
of it, the rush of learning about each new thing that you come across.
It's really addictive. You start by learning this much, and then you're like, oh, there's this extra thing I can learn and more, and it just builds. It's kind of hard to step back once you dive into it and say, same thing happened to you. I mean, you used to herp just to indulge me,
Yeah.
I would want to go out, we'd be spending the day together, we'd be hiking or whatever, and I'd be like, well, let's go here and look under this stuff, and you'd kind of be standing around, and then it's slowly like the bug bit you, and you...
Yeah, and now it's me who's like, hey, we're going to go herping, right?
Right. For her birthday, Ani calls me up and she goes, could we
should
go
go
herping
herping
for my birthday?
Wow. Yeah, and it's crazy because, the bug bit me, and now yesterday I was with my partner and her family and friends, and here I was like enlightening all these people about some of the things that we go out and find, and I'm like, yeah, like, it's so cool, you're going in these places, I'm showing them pictures of stuff, and it's crazy how your mind begins to change down to like your hearing and your sight. Like before, like I would never be able to do anything, but there are times where we're driving in the pitch blackness and like the slightest movement, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that was something. Boom, it was a lizard or a snake. And it's just so, I don't know, it's very, very eye-opening. So I totally get that bug bit feeling and that rush.
Yeah, it's always fun taking someone out road cruising for the first time when they've never been and they don't know what they're looking for. You're doing, 40, 50 down the road and you spot something tiny. They're like, how did you see that? Like, it's magic. And to us, it's we're used to it. Our eyes it really is just about training yourself how to look for it.
So do you still feel like you have the same burning passion that you had for bird watching as you do now for herping? Or do you find one kind of takes your interest more than the other?
And before you answer, there is one correct answer.
Remember, this is a herping podcast, so...
No, really.
It's... I find both very, very interesting, and it's really hard to pick a winner. It definitely comes in sort of... Waves about what I'm focused on at the time.
Sure.
So I was recently in Costa Rica, and every bird that was out there was new to me. Maybe not every bird, but most of the birds were new, and so I'm always trying to figure out what bird is this, identify it, build up my life list. Whereas when we're in California, it's very difficult for me to get a bird.
See something new.
Yeah, that I haven't seen in North America before, that I haven't seen in California before.
Right. Birds harder to get your lifers.
Yeah, I mean they show up, but they're like maybe once a year, and like there was a brambling that showed up. It's a small finch.
Is it a small brown bird?
It is a small. It can be red and blackish sort of, but also brown.
If it moves very quickly, it's brown.
Yeah. So, but there was like a brambling, which is a bird from Asia that showed up in the northern Sierras. And, that's a very far trip. I mean,
it's a further trip than I could take, and I'm a lot bigger than that bird.
Yeah. I was even in Tahoe, which is very far north from Los Angeles, where we are, and it still felt like it was going to be a whole ordeal to go an additional probably 3 hours of driving in the snow in order to sort of get a chance at seeing the birds.
Right, it's not like they're going to stand up with a sign, I'm here, come find me here. Yeah. You still got to go find them.
So it really depends on sort of where I am and what my mood is. But like whenever I'm going herping, like I still have my binoculars with me. I still identify all the things that I'm seeing. I might not spend 10 minutes looking at a tree, seeing all the birds that are there. But if I hear it, I'll make a note like, oh yeah, that was a common yellow-throat or a black-throated gray that happened to be passing through. These are two types of warblers, and so I still do them both a lot through my life, but at least in the U.S. it's mostly herping now.
Yeah. And I've noticed when we have gone out and you have pointed out birds and stuff before, and it's crazy where we say our eyes have become accustomed to the smallest movements on the road. You were saying, in that one tree, there's like 4 or 5 different birds. And I was like, but all I see are leaves. Like, where are you seeing this? And I feel like, you also have that eyesight for the birds within the trees. I was like, man, I can't see crap. And so that's I don't know. And that's why I want to be a bird watcher.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the best thing is to just be an all-out naturalist, to be into... Like, I'm a herper, for sure. And I'm out there looking for herps, but I'm not going to stop and appreciate something like it's not just about herps when you're out. Herps is our way. Herping is our way, our like window into the natural world. But once you enter the natural world, everything in it's appreciative. Like we said, like more in Washington, except for those garter snakes at the farm that we went to. That whole trip was all mammals and birds. Yeah, and crustaceans.
I was explaining that to my partner and her friends yesterday because they don't really pay attention. So when they go hiking or anything like that, they're not really paying attention that there's a life that's around them until you take that moment, just for that moment, to look down and let your eyes adjust, and you realize how much life is there. So herping is going out to find the reptiles that we look for, but at the end of the day, we're still appreciating any life that does come our way.
Yeah. When you started getting into herping, so you talked about how you started to get into it with your app and starting to go out. I assume in the beginning, a lot of it was you herping alone, right? You didn't have... Your friend group wasn't suddenly about to spend their days in the field looking for snakes with you as well, right?
Yeah, it was mostly on my own, or at least, I could drag my wife along a little bit.
Right, yeah, I try to drag mine along. At the beginning, I dragged her... Drugged?
No, I didn't drug her.
I dragged her out in the field as well. What do you think, now that, we herp together pretty often, I know you've been herping with other people as well, what's your kind of take on herping solo versus herping with others? It's something I talk about a lot with people when I'm in the field. Like, I don't like herping solo. It's nice sometimes to get out and clear my head and just kind of have a day in the field by myself, but to me it's much better as a shared activity. But I have a friend of mine, my business partner, John, he is the complete opposite. He's like, I put up with people in the field, but I'd much rather be out there alone every time.
I'm the opposite. I love herping with other people.
Yeah.
It is so much more fun. Like when you find something, you get to share that excitement with other people. You're like, look what I found. And then they're like, whoa, that's so cool. And there's so much more you can learn because, especially for me, like, I know a lot, but I'm not a researcher. Like, sometimes the very nitty-gritty details I don't know, and being with other people, like, they might have heard something, they might be a researcher, and they really get to fill me in on these really cool facts about some of the things that we find. Going by yourself is, if you're by yourself, you get the excitement of really taking credit for everything you find, which has value and has some excitement to it, but I think it pales in the comparison of that shared excitement. And plus, I do a lot of filming for my YouTube video, and so when we find something, I might spend a good amount of time with it.
Right.
And Zeev, you often will spend a tiny amount of time with me, and then you continue on and look for other stuff. And what that means is you'll flip all the rocks for me. You'll do all the hard work.
Yeah, we'll just get the stars for the show ready by the time you come along.
Yeah.
And then you find the next thing, and I'm like, I didn't have to break
right.
my back. You make it really easy for me to get to the next species.
Yeah, that's I can definitely enjoy that point of view. I think the one thing I will say for herping alone is that for me personally, when I do get the chance to, or not the chance, when I do take the time to herp alone, it gives me an opportunity in a way to kind of slow down and appreciate smaller finds that I wouldn't normally do if I'm with people, even if it's, friends. Like if I'm with you guys and there's nothing to prove, it's still, there's that, not quite competitive edge to it, but like I want to find the coolest thing to show you guys, or just to show myself. But I'm with others, what are they finding? I got to find more. Whereas when I'm out there alone, I don't have that pressure, so I can stop for a particularly interesting looking skink and just spend an hour with a skink, or observe a couple of fence lizards, two males kind of running each other off a boulder or something, which when you're out with other people, you just don't do. You don't take the time to stop and do that. And so that might be the one thing that I like about herping solo, is that it kind of gives you that permission almost to take the time to really enjoy every moment of it in a way that you wouldn't with other people.
You have the permission to do that when you're with me. I like that kind of stuff too.
I know that I do, and I know that I could, even when I'm out with Ellie and it's just Ellie and I know that I can stop, and Ellie would appreciate it for sure for me to stop for a while and not keep pushing on to the next rock, to the next board. But there's something about the dynamic of being out there with other people that makes it harder to, I don't know if it's just because of how we're trained socially or whatever it is, to not just be content with just sitting with somebody else in silence for a half an hour or an hour. We're kind of built to just keep doing stuff and keep bringing more stuff up, talking or interacting or looking for more stuff. And even though I know that it's perfectly okay to do that with you guys, I just never do it.
Yeah, I mean, when I film for my YouTube channel, I think some of the best content that I make is when I actually do the voiceovers in the field. And when I'm with people that I haven't met before, I'm usually very quiet and I get my footage and I do a voiceover later.
Yeah, sure.
Because I don't want to disrupt their flow. But having been out with YouTube for so many times, like I do the filming out there.
Right, you're totally comfortable now.
And I'm comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with you guys hearing all the mistakes that I make and me sort of practicing a couple times.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me anymore. But it definitely took a little bit of practice, and I almost never do it the first time I'm out with somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings me to my next question, or topic to talk about. One thing we've kind of talked about in previous episodes, especially with Danny, is the different kinds of herping that there are. Whether it's road cruising or flipping or hiking stuff up. I think all of those have their merits. What's your favorite way out of all of those that have them?
So my favorite is flipping artificial cover. So sometimes artificial feels a little sad because it's not very natural, right? The people put this stuff out there. Now, I love flipping logs as well. And I really enjoy taking my field hook out, which is this tool that basically allows me to not bend over and put in all this effort in and finding things that way. Because going out into Riverside where there's a bunch of rocks, it is so much work.
So much work.
And
you're sweating. It's a job for
it's
sure.
A work.
Yeah.
No,
it's
a workout. It's a workout.
But even when we find a lot, the majority of the things that we flip, there's usually nothing under it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like going with artificial feather, even if I don't feel even if I haven't found much, I didn't feel like I don't feel exhausted when I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like I'm able to keep good pace. I go to the next piece of wood and I flip that over. And I tend to really like amphibians and salamanders and things like that. And those guys, flipping wood is usually much better for them. And so that's the kind of herping that I find the most enjoyable.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff to herp. I don't feel exhausted at the end of it.
What I like about artificial cover too, is flipping boards or whatever, is it's relatively low impact on the environment too. When you're flipping rocks, we talked about this in length before, so I won't really go into it again. When you're flipping rocks, even no matter how careful you're being, there is a detrimental effect to the environment, no matter how small that effect is. It could be very small. You can minimize it as much as you want, but you are really going through this natural habitat.
There is still a fairly decent footprint you're leaving.
Yes. Whereas with artificial cover, there's the footprint of putting it out in the first place, absolutely. But when you're just searching it, when it's not your artificial cover, it's been out there already, you're not really damaging the natural environment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
If anything, I mean, you are creating home.
Creating I don't, as long as you're like, so I have several board lines out there, right? I have several places that I've put out boards of wood, and over time, I don't think we've actually talked in detail yet about what artificial cover is on the podcast. So real quickly, artificial cover, especially in somewhere like California and a lot of the United States, where a lot of the herp species can be found most reliably by looking under things, is when herpers go out and set up their own cover. So instead of going looking under rocks or logs, you go, hey, I'm going to put something out that a snake might like more than a log. And the most effective one is boards of wood, thicker boards of wood, because they offer a wide surface area for snakes to hide under. They have a more even temperature gradient, and so snakes can thermoregulate under them. And so, and for many other reasons too, shelter, and other reasons that snakes enjoy them, which is a whole episode in and of itself. But, so what a lot of herpers do, especially in California, but I'm sure in other places too, is we go out and set out our own board lines. And a board line is a place that you've identified as good habitat, and you've put out a lot of boards out there. You've taken them out there, you've spread them out, you found what you believe to be good places to put them, and you leave them there usually for at least a year. It usually takes at least a year for snakes to start to use them. And over that time, hopefully, although less and less here in California, it'll get several rains, and the rain will create a seal around it, and they'll start having its own microclimate and microenvironment underneath the board. And you go out, you turn these boards over, and if you're lucky, there's a snake underneath them.
And you always look at the silver lining, because if there is no snake there, I mean, I'm not the biggest bug fan, but you see so much life underneath it. It's all the really different bugs and things.
Those micro habitats.
Yeah, so you try to see your silver lining if in that moment you do miss the snake that was there at one point.
Right, and so all this goes back to just kind of what Ani was saying, where artificial cover, although it's not natural, it provides these kind of shelters for these snakes. And it's not that it's better for them, they would survive just fine without them, but it does provide more shelters and homes for them, although they are liable to get yanked out of there by herpers like us at any given moment.
Yeah.
And one extra thing about artificial cover is when people lay it out, a responsible person will get permission from the landowner or will put it on their own property.
Definitely.
Yeah, no trespassing or going on to
Don't
private.
put it on state parks, national parks. Technically, it's dumping. Even though you're not dumping trash, that is dumping. You can get cited for that. It's illegal. Just don't do it. I have lots of boards on private land, which you get permission from. It's either, like Greg said, your own land, or you get permission from the landowner first. There's very little public land left where you can do that because it is technically dumping anywhere you do it. So definitely you want to get... There's one area here in the vicinity where I've spoken to, where I've made arrangements. It's a state park, or it might be a city park, I don't know. Where I've made arrangements with the rangers there to set it out, and they've approved the area and gone out to make sure that where I say it is, and it's a study site. And so that, if you only land you have is state land or city land or whatever, make sure you get that permission first. Now I'm turning my face towards Ani and asking her, what is your favorite way to herp? What's your favorite style of herping?
Honestly, I would have to say, the thing is, I love putting on the boots and tromping through like forests or deserts, but I have to say I really love cruising.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah,
I really love cruising. I love to drive, but I love. For me also, I love to stargaze in some of the places that we go to. So cruising allows me to do that. When we go to these places where it's just pitch black, there's the only light source you're getting, or the only way you can see what's in front of you, is within the beam of your flashlight or your headlights. So I love stargazing and seeing what's out there. I'll take my charts up on my phone and I'll look that. But I love cruising. There's something about the eeriness of the night, the driving, everyone is just peeled on the road and you're quiet in those moments, and the excitement and braking hard. I don't know. There's just an excitement with cruising that I'm legitimately addicted to.
Yeah,
I have to say it's
that.
by far my favorite.
I get that. It's actually funny the conversation that I had with my friend John about preferring to herp solo versus with people actually originated around road cruising. Because for me, road cruising is such a social activity. You know, you're in a car with your friends, hopefully they're your friends. You listen to music, you're passing around snacks, and it's just a good time. You know, even on nights where you don't see anything, which does absolutely happens, you still actually spent all evening hanging out.
I must say, I think some of like the most like just in-depth conversations we've had, some way somehow, just they always spark while we're road cruising. Yeah. We're both like we both haven't blinked for like 10 minutes. Okay, we're staring at the road, but in that time frame, we're just having such deep conversation and I don't know, within the chamber of the car, it's just
road cruising is great. There's no question that road cruising is great.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could pick a favorite though. I think each method of herping has its own kind of reward. You know, flipping, especially rock flipping in spring or hiking, is physically really, like you said, really hard. You know, but the reward when you find something after all that hard work is that much sweeter for me. Whereas when I'm road cruising, let's say I'm flipping all day, right? And it's taking me 3 hours, and I flip a gopher snake. I'm really excited because I've worked damn hard for that gopher snake.
You've been sweating for that one.
If I'm road cruising and cool, a gopher snake pass, I get out, I'll see it, I'll take a picture, I'll be like, that's cool, gopher snake. Move on, let's find the next snake, you know? So it robs you a little bit of that appreciation of the find, but it's a whole lot easier and a lot more fun. So those are all. I think I wouldn't be able to pick one.
Such a cop-out.
Call it what you will.
What? You gotta pick one, man.
I'm a generalist, man. I love all herping. You touched upon this a little bit earlier, but what's going to be your favorite thing to look for? For me, it's always going to be snakes. You know, unless sometimes I'll take specific trips looking for something else because that'll be the target. But if I'm out herping, I'm looking for snakes. I know for other people, it can be other herps. Other herps are equal as exciting or more. What about for you?
So I think it's the amphibians that really get me the most excited, and you know, it's mostly frogs and salamanders. Toads are cool too. I got nothing against them, but so I mean, similar in birding. Like one of the most important tools that you have in bird watching is using your ears and listening to the things that are calling. And when it comes to herping, like most things don't make any noise at all, right? Except for the frogs and the toads.
I guess there is that.
And it's really cool to. It's really. I find it really amazing that like you can train your ear to identify things. And it's fun, and I love hearing these things out in the wilderness while we're out there and being like, oh, I hear this, I want to go see it, and like actually being able to locate it because you can hear it.
Yeah, I've never thought about that parallel between frogs and birds, kind of. That's cool.
Yeah. And the salamanders, I don't know why I love salamanders. It's probably because
awesome. Because salamanders are awesome.
They're cool-looking creatures.
Yeah, I mean, those were some of the first things that I like found myself and like was able to like pick up, hold, and examine. You know, so as an adult, when I was getting more into herping, I was living in Seattle, and so there was this park in Seattle that I absolutely loved, and you could flip like any log there and find salamanders. It was mostly the western redback salamander, but you could also get northwestern salamanders, and you go into the water and you can see the egg masses there. It was really cool and right in the city.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and I feel like I put in all this effort into finding things and going out, and salamanders are some of the most reliable things that I'm able to find. You know, when I find a spot that's like really, really good, I can find a dozen or 24 salamanders. And it's very difficult for me to get a day where I can get one spot and find, you know, a handful of snakes.
Sure.
It happens. I mean, with the garter snakes that we saw, we had 20 all in one spot. But like this is pretty common with salamanders. That there's a spot in Los Angeles in the city that I've had again over 20 black-bellied slender salamanders all at once. And the last time I was there, I think I had like 12.
Yeah.
Can't get that with anything else. And I don't know. There's something about finding all these things. Now the slender salamanders are not my favorite.
Sure.
There are more colorful salamanders.
Toothpicks, yeah.
They're bigger salamanders, but I don't know. Something about the salamanders that I really like. And it's probably because those were some of the first things that I was finding on my own.
Yeah, I think we all have a special connection to the first herps, or just in wildlife in general, the first wildlife that we get into for sure. You mentioned earlier in passing that you'd just been on a trip to Costa Rica. What was that like? What was like? I assume you did some herping there too.
Costa Rica was amazing. So first, this was actually my honeymoon.
Oh wow.
And so this was not a herping trip. We spent plenty of time doing like zip lining and canyoning and all these non-herping related things.
Sure, yeah.
But every night, I would go out and look for things.
The nights were reserved for herping.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of the herping that we do together is during the daytime here in California. Yeah. We have a lot of diurnal species, active during the day.
Or we can flip for nocturnal species.
Right.
Yeah.
But in Costa Rica, it's a lot of the herping is really reserved to the nighttime.
Yeah.
And in part is because they have a lot of frogs. The frogs are very active and they're calling at night. Snakes, we had a handful. They have diurnal snakes, they have nocturnal snakes, and we saw some of both while we were out and doing things. But really the forest came alive at night, and every 5 steps you would take, you would find something else. It wouldn't necessarily be a herp. It might be some stick insect or some gigantic cricket, but
some creature of the rainforest.
Yeah, it was really cool. We splurged a little bit and had a pool at one of our hotel rooms.
Nice. As you should on your honeymoon.
Yeah,
so
you only have one
get to do it all
honeymoon.
the time.
And one of the things that I loved about it was we could even find things at our hotel room. I had the security guard from the hotel show me where to go, because I guess they do a night tour at the hotel and like they go to that spot.
Yeah.
But even though they do a tour, I was there every night. Never saw the tour get there. So the security guard takes me there and he's looking at stuff and he's showing me mostly the red-eyed tree frogs, because they're pretty loud and pretty abundant there. And I go, I have to get back for dinner, and I go back afterwards, and then I found a northern cat-eyed snake, and of course I run to the security guard, the guard stand, and I grab the guy, and I'm like, hey, you want to see a snake? And he's like, yeah, of course. And so he comes back out with me, and then I show him that, and I pick it up. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what are you doing? You're picking up a snake? I'm like, yeah, this one's fine.
Yeah.
This one you don't have to worry about. And so, like, that was a really cool experience. I'm like, oh, do you want to hold it? And he's like, no, I don't want to hold it.
Growing up myself, I was always under the notion that all snakes will hurt me.
Right.
Not only will they hurt me, but, like, if I come across one, they're going to chase me like a great white shark. So, like, to think that there's only a few species that will actually hurt you, that it was so shocking when I would just see him and be like, boop, here it is, here you go, here's a snake. I was like, wait, you telling me I can hold this?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's such a trippy thing. Everyone, I don't know if it's TV, movies, or what, but it's created this mentality that snakes will hurt you no matter what they are. And so I feel like I can understand that mentality of seeing someone pick it up for the first time, just plucking it out of nature.
Yeah.
How it might like make your brain go weird all of a sudden.
And then one other trip I wanted to ask you about was recently you took, going back to birding for a minute, another trip you took recently was a really cool one, which is also in one of your videos, with the grouse. What was that like as an experience?
So for your listeners who don't know, grouse are large
chickens.
They're kind of chickens. So there are specific type of grouse that are chicken. So grouse are usually these large, sort of nondescript birds that love to display on leks. They don't all lek, but a lot of them do. And a lek is this grassy field, and their displays are just so intricate. So they get together in groups, and they dance and they sing in the field.
Yeah, there really is no other word for it. They dance. They really dance.
Yeah, and each grouse has their own specific dance and their own specific call. And it's really cool to see these birds that are like all getting together. And there's prairie chickens are really cool. They really puff up their vocal sacs and they make these neat calls and they do a little wiggle with their butts.
Yeah.
And these are all for mating, right? Or is just original? Okay.
Yeah, the males are trying to attract the females. Yeah. So you'll get a group of, it might be like 10 birds, 10 male birds. It's a lot, but like you could have less, but you could also get like 50 birds.
Yeah.
And then you'll have one female come in or a couple of females, and they'll check out all the male birds, and they'll be like,
and they'll pick one.
I like how he dances. Yeah. And like I really like his colors, and they're trying to find a mate. And then the female would actually go off and raise the kids on her own. And the sharp-tailed grouse, I think, have the most interesting dance moves. It's kind of like Michael Jackson.
They're really impressive, yeah.
They have these tails, and they sort of put their arms out wide to the side, and they kind of look like mini airplanes as they sort of stomp around in place, and you can hear their stomping while you're sort of listening to them, and they do this, and they run around. It's really, really cool.
That's really neat.
That's nice.
But you got to wake up early to see these birds. So a lot of them are really skittish. The birds will start doing their display before the sun's up. Maybe at first light, so 30 minutes to an hour before sunrise. And if people are there, if predators are around, they're going to lay low. They're not going to do their thing. And so if you want to observe them, you need to get there about an hour before they start. And then you can set up, you can be in place, you can be either in your car or in a bird blind, and get in a good position to watch them do their thing where they don't realize that you're there.
And does it happen like within the same amount of time, or like the same time of month, or the same part of the year every year?
Yeah.
Or does it change?
So this was the trip that I did was in April, the very end of April. And springtime. That's when they're out. They're doing the thing. They'll lek for a while. I don't know if they do it. I don't know exactly how long, but it's at least a month. I think even some of the birds might even start lekking in like February. But yeah, it's always in the springtime. Always when they're most of them are in cold places where there's snow, and so they wait until the snow goes away.
And they come out
and they come out, do their stuff.
With this conversation so jam-packed full of information, Ziv and I felt like we had no other choice but to go ahead and dice this up into two. We want to go ahead and thank you guys for joining us on this episode, and we want to make sure that you guys subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Amazon, Apple, Google, wherever you get them. Make sure you're subscribed, make sure your notifications are on, so that you'll know when episode part 2 with Greg Schechter is uploaded. We definitely want you guys to join us again because there's so much more that we talk about, from different beer choices and pairings with food, Greg's adventures out there, as well as his YouTube channel and application that he's creating, and the most important aspect of any episode, the recipe. Ziv's cooked up a really great recipe for y'all, and we definitely want to make sure that you guys know when it's up to go ahead and give it another listen. So once again, we want to thank you for joining us. Make sure you're subscribed for part 2, and as always, hop in the car. Let's go.